And now what we're going to do, Andy, is going to have pool tips for us later, safe pool tips when you're swimming alone or swimming with the family. And now, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, a little bit of band notes for Rollie Keith from Channel 31.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Good to see you.
Great day, look at this. Now, can we ask for better weather than this? We gotta move that mic. Can we get a prop man out here? Oh, we're making him do labor. Look at this.
Okay.
This is great.
Is this gonna be good enough for me?
Pull up a mic, make yourself at home.
Maybe I should just talk into this
There
thing,
you
something
go.
like this. This is okay.
Do you need one of those little clickers so you can
No, I don't need that, as long as this thing's on.
Can't beat that, huh?
Oh, fantastic weather. Even better than I thought it would be, really.
Yeah, now this is great. Now, I was expecting rain.
You were?
I'm not a weatherman, so no.
No, I wasn't expecting rain at all. But I'd tell you, it would probably help a little bit. Both of us should be wearing our shades because the sun is really kind of glaring off the glasses.
There goes the old vision.
But I'm sure happy to be a part of your show.
Yeah.
And you're going to interview me, or am I going to interview you?
I don't know. Well, you're doing pretty good. You can let me know if you want. Whoa!
I'm not used to being the one being interviewed, but I'll go ahead and
we can interview
I'll go
each
along
other.
with it.
We can learn so much more that way.
All right.
This would be a great idea. Well, how long have you been in television now, and what got you interested into?
Well, as of February the 15th, 27 years, 6.5 of that at Channel 31, and 21.5 of that at Channel 19 in Peoria, with a year off from Memphis. I went to Memphis back in 1966, but came back in 67, and I'm not sure why, because I came back to my own hometown of Pekin, Illinois, a hometown that, of course, has always been my hometown. Born and raised there, went to Pekin High School. Ran away to the Navy after high school, came back, went to Western Illinois State University, and then as a business major, believe it or not.
Business, and you got into television.
Well, business wasn't my business, I'll tell you that, because accounting was the worst thing I could do, and I transferred to Chicago School, where they offered a degree in speech and a chance to work in radio and television, the early days of television, back in the late 40s, early 50s. And from there to radio out in Ohio and back to Pekin, and then back in 1960 to Channel 19 for almost 21 and a half years.
So you pretty much started out in radio then? You didn't have anything to do with newspaper or anything like that?
No, I have a speech degree, but the natural progression back in those days, television got their people from radio. That was, but now of course the kids go to college and they go right into television.
Yeah.
They bypass radio if that's what they want to do. Back in those days, you had to go to radio first to learn how to talk, to ad-lib a little bit, and be comfortable in front of a microphone. But that isn't the way it goes anymore. But that's the way it happened with me.
A lot of bugs out here today. What was your first break for television?
First break in television, I was in radio in Pekin, and one of my announcers said that Channel 19 wanted to add to their staff. They had 2 staff announcers because they no longer did a news show, and so they had 2 people on the staff. That was it. And they said, we'll need 1 more man. We'd been bought by Metro Media out of New York, and I went up and auditioned, and they gave me the job the very day I auditioned. I wasn't nervous when I auditioned, but I was awful nervous when I finally got the job.
Yeah.
And I was as nervous as you could possibly be for the next 3 or 4 years, really. But the first 6 months, after the first few months, really, the management said to me, maybe you'd like to be a director, or maybe you'd like to be a producer or something, or cameraman or something.
Kind of a little hint there, maybe?
Yeah, it certainly was a hint. The hint that they weren't really happy with what they were seeing. And I told them then, if you're not happy with my television work, I'll go back to radio, but I'm not going to be a producer, I'm not going to be a cameraman, I'm not going to be a director, I want to be talent. And
you're going to use television to its fullest.
And shortly after that, somebody got fired, and they made me the weatherman, and so because he made more money than I did, and since I made less money, they kept me and fired him. And I struggled through weather for the first few months, but became more comfortable before the cameras, and the rest of it, of course, is my television history.
Now, you know, when you're watching the weather, you look really comfortable. I mean, you know, doing the weather, it looks like that's your place. You know, that's where you're supposed to be. Do you look to go on? Maybe anchor the news or anything like that?
Well, I've done about everything you can do in television and in radio, including an occasional anchoring of the news, especially in Memphis, and the early days of Channel 19. But I'm much more comfortable doing an ad-lib show. There are people who think when you do a weather show, you're probably reading a bunch of stuff, but you're really not. You've consumed a bunch of information that you draw on and you throw it out somehow, some way during the 4 minutes that you have on the air. I find that a much more comforting thing than being at the mercy of a teleprompter operator, that kind of thing. I would much rather be ad-libbing my shows.
Okay, so what happens when you you walk in the morning, okay, or the afternoon when you get ready to do your show? What exactly happens when you walk in?
I think the first thing I do is to clear the weather wire and make sure that I tear off the necessary things that I want to keep and consume and that I'll be using. So after all these years, you know exactly what you're looking for. Sometimes it's not always there. Or the machine is giving you big problems. That's the first thing I do. Get a feel for what's already going on. Bob Larson, of course, my counterpart at noon, has already done a part of that research and already has his show put together. And I check his facts out and add mine to it, and it comes up with a kind of a hybrid between the two. And it takes me approximately now about an hour and a half to put the whole thing together.
What kind of information do you take off there now? What do you get from the weather wire?
The summaries of what's happening across the United States, the temperatures from all the major cities, because that's vital for my weather roll. Then, of course, the National Weather Service in Peoria puts out a local weather forecast. And the stats on the day, and the present conditions. These are all part of what I search for. There is a 3:15 summary in the afternoon, and this is the summary of every place it's raining, snowing, cold, hot, whatever, records being set, and so forth. Then I check back to the 9 o'clock summary, and I'll check to the 2 a.m. summary, too. So I looked at three summaries where it was snowing last night in New England. It's not snowing at 9. It's raining at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So
track it a little bit.
Right.
You said you like the weather a lot. You turn it on now. You see a lot of people doing different things on the weather, and how do you feel doing weather? Do you want to do anything different when you're doing the weather? Like do anything crazy, if you know what I mean?
Because I'm not basically a crazy person. I think I've always drawn on my so-called personality to be basically me. I've never considered myself a comic, a comedian. If I were to do that kind of a show, it would be hard work every day, trying to come up with a new and different gimmick or try to be crazier than I was the day before. What I've tried to do is just be myself. And try not to hide the errors or the mistakes. If there is a mistake on the air, I draw attention to it rather than ignore it like it didn't even happen. I think that you draw more attention to yourself when you ignore obvious things, and so I'll laugh about those things. But basically, I've tried to be me, and I think that my so-called personality and my talent has been what I've had to lean on for the last 27 years.
Now, your personality and talent, how do you think your schooling, did that play a big role there? You said you had a speech degree. Did that help you out any, you think? That made you a little more fluent, or?
I think so. It taught me how to read a commercial before I ever got into the business. It taught me how to write a commercial before I ever got into the business, that kind of thing. And it taught me somewhat to be able to get up in front of my fellow students and be able to talk to them and that kind of thing. So I think I've always been a little petrified of big audiences and so forth, but I've never been petrified of a camera particularly. There is a difference,
Yeah.
But I really think it's easier to talk to people than to talk to cameras, because at least you get some kind of a reaction back from the people.
You can see what's happening.
Right. And there's no reaction back from a camera at all.
Okay, how about if we go back a little bit to high school? What happened in high school? When did you think that television was for you?
Television wasn't for me back in high school. Television was unknown when I was in high school, if that gives any indication of how old I am. But television was in New York City because when I was in the service, just after high school, I would see a very, very snowy kind of picture. And so television was in 1948 brand new, 46, I beg your pardon, 1946 brand new. But it was never part of my life then because I had gotten myself involved with some drama in high school, and I was in the school operetta and the spring shows and things like that, but always as a singer. And that first applause and getting the lead in my first operetta in high school kind of did whet my appetite for the applause. I loved it, but I suffered a lot knowing that at the end of the day I was going to get in front of people, and I suffered a great deal for that.
You think that's helped you out a lot? Do you think that's like a good way to get rid of something like, you know, if you are afraid of dealing with people?
Oh, I think that whatever you're afraid of, go do it. Make yourself do it. But it's very painful.
Yeah.
Very painful. The early days of television, when I got the job, I auditioned before a few people. But then after I got the job, I was scared to death because I realized that all those antennas and all those houses, they could be watching me, and it really was scary.
Now, you know, you've been in weather for what, 20 years now. What have you noticed? What kind of changes have you noticed through weather now? The different, looking from like a technical end.
Well, thank goodness all of the changes have come a little bit at a time. It hasn't been a big, massive change when you add the pictures that we have today compared to the old map that you wrote on, and the forecast that you put up by hand. Now you have a Chiron machine that typed this stuff all in. And but in the old days, I had to put my own stuff on the board, and they took a shot of that. And we used to have the old gauges, you know, the wind direction, the wind speed, the barometer, and things like that. Of course, they've eliminated all those things, but I think they were good at their time. But the Chiron that we have now, the fact that I'm pointing to a blank wall, but everybody thinks that I'm seeing what they're seeing. Actually, I'm looking at a monitor. That's the only way I can see what the audience sees.
Okay, I got a question for you while we're on the subject here. How long did it take you to get that down? You can look at a lot of different, you know, people on doing weather and stuff like that, and when they're pointing, they can be up here.
A million miles away.
Yeah, they can be.
Not very long, really. I was really amazed at myself, basically because we started off by doing some radar in the key. So I would be able to point to certain things on camera, and this is the start of it, the fact when we first had radar. And now, of course, you've got your prog maps and all the other stuff. And so starting with the radar first and then moving into the prog maps and all the other things, it got to be a lot easier to do. And I don't know, it didn't take very many times at all to do it.
Now, what other kind of changes have there been, really? Has there been a lot of other changes from the...
Not really, because I get my weather forecast the same way I did 27 years ago.
Really? Still comes in?
It still comes in. I still talk to the guys in the National Weather Service, as I did 27 years ago, twice a day, generally at 4:30 and at 9:30 every night, to make sure that there's no big change that I don't know about or something like that. Especially when a front comes through and it's an iffy kind of forecast. You like to find out from them what's going on from their standpoint.
Now, here's a good question for you. How do you like it now when you forecast? You know, I know you're just relaying the information and putting your facts together. How do you feel when you get rain and you forecasted sunny skies or something like that?
Oh, it used to bother me a lot.
Did it?
And I remember a few years ago, in the early days of May, my wife said, "Wake up, honey, you won't believe what's happened outside." And of course I looked outside and there was about 6 inches of snow, and this is like the 3rd or 4th or 5th of May, which is even later than we are right now. And you can't imagine it, but it certainly did happen. The only good thing about a May snow, it disappears in a very large hurry. By afternoon or early evening, that 6 inches of snow is completely gone. I've been surprised lots of times, and I think that's something you have to live with.
So you really don't let it get under your skin anymore?
Oh, no.
Now, I mean, because you know, a lot of people, they're, you know, the darn weathermen. Look what they've done to us now. Like you guys sit with their
people do get
buttons,
testy.
You know?
If you had a long siege of bad weather, they do start to get really testy, and they really get irritated with you.
And that's when you pull out the pocket weather controller and you put it back up to sunny skies. Well, you've certainly done a great job forecasting weather for us. You said it was going to be sunny.
Mike, a fantastic day, and I thank you very much for making me a part of your show.
But wait, there's more.
What, there's more?
We wanted to make you feel a little bit at home today, so what we've done, we've gotten a weather map here, and who's got the, here we go. We were wondering if you could do a quick forecast for us here. We've got a marker for you.
Well, I'll tell you this, I haven't been anywhere near a weather map. Where'd you get the figure? Where'd you get all this stuff? I see. Well,
here we go. Nice quick marker.
Okay. All right. Except I haven't even looked at a weather map today, so I don't have the slightest idea. Except that I know that there was, a little low up there. last night, and the frontal system, that is Illinois, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then the frontal system came on down through here, looked something like that. So what's really been happening here, and why we have this beautiful weather, is the fact that you've had a cold front come through here, and actually you got high pressure anchored up here in northern Minnesota. And I wish this thing did right.
Yeah. Good marker, guys.
And meanwhile, we're getting our weather off the front of that high pressure center. It's cold Canadian air, cool Canadian air. This high will move on away, and as it does, we'll start to get a southerly flow. Meanwhile, this frontal system here, which is a cold front now, will become a warm front and work its way back closer to us. And as it works its way through, it's going to give us warmer temperatures as we look at the weekend. Temperatures around 75 or 80. But this little low, you got a low back in here, it's going to work its way across, and as it does, give us a chance for some rain possibly over the weekend, but it'll be scattered.
You know, that was a good point about the weather map here. I'm wondering what here. This looks like what? Kentucky Fried Chicken or something here?
Kind of a drumstick. Looks like a drumstick. Yeah, it does.
And you know, we've got some poor excuses for states over here.
That's
folks.
the strangest looking Illinois I've seen for a while. But then I did identify it.
Now I notice she's got shower written here. I don't foresee showers happening. How about you?
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
Not tonight, or probably tomorrow night, even maybe Saturday.
Okay. Well, so we're looking for pretty clear skies.
Okay.
What do you say for the people who are going to go out try to do some sunbathing this week?
Oh, I would say by all means try. By all means try.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. We've enjoyed having you on.
Then I got to head to work.
Okay. Well, you have fun at work.
Okay.
Everybody, make sure to tune in and watch tonight on Channel 31, 6 and 10 with the weather.